I love European football. I love watching games in the Champions League, in the Europa League, and the Conference League as well, because it brings together fans from across the continent to go and watch the beautiful game. But unfortunately, there are some examples, and we've seen a very, very ugly example of what that can do when you bring different people together from different parts of the continent. And we saw some very, very ugly scenes in Amsterdam this week, and I had to talk about it. I much prefer talking about the simple things in football. I much prefer talking about game reviews and previews and all that easy kind of stuff to talk about. That's my bread and butter. But Israel-Palestine, on the other hand, bit more difficult. Admittedly, and there's been some horrific scenes really in the Dutch capital on Thursday. So let me just give some background to this. So Ajax were drawn against Maccabi Tel Aviv, who are an Israeli side. Amsterdam, of course, being a Dutch side. This was in Amsterdam where this game was taking place, and as such, there were away fans travelling from Israel to go and support their team, which is absolutely fine, good on them. Good away day, Amsterdam, great city, love it. But unfortunately, some, and I'm going to stress some, I'm not going to say that everybody was doing this because that is not the case. I'm sure this was a relatively small amount of people outside of the ground, but they really did do some horrible things. Now, I've gone through a few different sources because whenever anything comes up like this, and it's very contentious, and I'm not going to cite any videos or anything like that. I'm just going off of sources. I'm just going off of pretty verified videos. I don't speak Hebrew. I don't speak Dutch. I'm not going to get into what exactly people said when it came to these things. A, because it'd be inappropriate for YouTube, and B, because I don't want to go repeating it. Simple as that. Some of the things that some of these Tel Aviv supporters were saying should not be repeated. But basically, the easiest way to summarise it was anti-Arab, anti-Palestinian chants, saying that basically there are no children left in Gaza because they have been bombed so much, presumably, by Israel. It's not even funny. It's just like, why would you say that? Like, what has that got to do with football? On top of that as well, it wasn't just verbal, it was also physical stuff too. They apparently burned a Palestinian flag, and while going around the city, they apparently attacked a taxi, just some dude doing his job, making bread, earning for his family. Gets attacked, gets his vehicle destroyed. Again, his workplace. It's just shocking how this has happened. But then it didn't really get too much better when they were in the game either, because there was, if anybody watched any European games this week, they will have seen that there was a minute's silence for the victims of the Valencia floods. I think over 200 people have now passed away in the floods for that. So it's terrible, absolutely awful what's happening in Spain. And as a mark of respect, all UEFA games this week had a minute's silence before the game to respect the victims. And everybody in the Johann Cruyff Arena, the stadium where this game played, was silent, apart from the away fans, who just kept chanting. They kept making noise throughout the entire minute, and they made an effort to do so. Now, you might be wondering, why is this? Is there a reason behind this? Well, apparently, the only reason I can find, and it's not a reason, but this is the reason that apparently some fans are giving, that apparently Spain has kind of reined it in when it comes to supplying weapons to Israel to go and fight their war against Palestine. And that's why, because they will not give them weapons. So therefore, innocent people who have died in floods, they don't deserve any respect, apparently. That's according to Tel Aviv supporters. And again, I was saying that this was an isolated pocket of people potentially before the game that was partaking in these activities. It seemed as though from the videos that I've got that everybody from Tel Aviv in that section at the top of the ground, they were all still chanting. They were all still doing it. They were waving flags. They were doing the lot right. I have no words for that. That is just, it's just downright despicable. So, in response to this, and let me just stress, I'm not condoning the actions of the people who responded to this, but what I have to say is that you can't be surprised by it, that there is not only a reaction, but a potentially an even bigger reaction to what was done, right? Apparently after that, and this is according to people such as the mayor of Amsterdam, people like official sources that are saying that essentially men were going around on motorcycles attacking people in response to what the Tel Aviv supporters were doing. And of course, Amsterdam being the capital city of the Netherlands has quite a diverse population, quite a few Arabic people there. So they took this personally. As you know, you can understand why. I'm not saying that what they did was right. I'm not. These hit and run attacks are deplorable, just like what the Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters did in the build-up to this game and during the game as well, with not honouring the minutes silence, I should say. It's just bad all around from both sides. It really is. And some people, including the mayor of Amsterdam, has actually gone out and said that it reminds us of what we saw in World War II. These anti-Jewish attacks. And I'm not going to comment on that. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to make comparisons like that. This is a football channel at the end of the day. This is not a history channel. But what is without a doubt is the fact that this was violence that was stoked, and unfortunately, on both sides, horrible things happened. I don't know if these people that were attacking the Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters were Ajax supporters. It doesn't really matter. It's a horrible incident anyway. From what I understand, Dutch football has a bit of a problem with hooliganism anyway, so it wouldn't take much for this powder keg to go and explode like this. And I'm sure there'll be some people out there that are saying, how can you say this about these poor Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters? They were attacked in the streets. This is wrong. And I am saying it's wrong. Absolutely. I am absolutely saying it's wrong. It should not have happened. It's not an adult and mature response to something that is incredibly difficult. But I'll tell you what, though. Let me just put this to you, right? What if the shoes were on the other foot? What if Ajax, instead of being drawn at home against Maccabi Tel Aviv, they got drawn away, which easily could have happened? And it's not going to happen in this because the group stages are no longer the group stages, they are the league phase. So this is the only time that Ajax and Maccabi Tel Aviv will probably play each other this season, right? Unless an absolute miracle happens and Maccabi Tel Aviv somehow get through, because they're currently getting absolutely beaten every week. I think it was like 5-0 this game, something like that, which doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but this is probably the only time they're going to play each other, right? But what if the roles were reversed? What if, and I'm not saying Ajax fans would do this, I'm not, but let's just say hypothetically, what if Ajax were drawn away against Maccabi Tel Aviv, and before the game, they go around, they attack local businesses, people's taxis, stuff like that, and they burn Jewish flags, they burn Israeli flags in the streets before the game. And then there is a minute's silence for the victims in Israel of the war in Palestine or something like that, and Ajax fans just sing throughout it, chanting all sorts of horrible stuff, right? Would you expect no reaction from the locals over that? You absolutely would, wouldn't you? They would react to that, and you would understand why. Not that it makes it right, but there we go, guys. It's horrible from both sides. It's deplorable. It's a really sad incident in European football, and I just had to talk about it. I had to get my thoughts out there. I had to make you guys aware of it as well. It's not made too many headlines, to be honest, from what I can see. It's on the news sites, but it's not something that a lot of people are talking about. I only found out about it from listening to the radio yesterday while doing the school run and picking my son up in the afternoon. So this wasn't even really out there that much yesterday. I didn't really notice it, to be honest. It depends what news sources you follow, I suppose. But yeah, it's really, I just wanted to say, just make it absolutely clear, I'm not saying anybody is right in this. I'm saying everybody's wrong in it. Everybody who's been involved in this, the Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters that were instigating all this in the build-up to the game, they weren't honouring the victims of the Valencia floods, and then the locals in Amsterdam that took offence to this and then reacted. They're wrong too. They shouldn't have reacted in the way they did. It's wrong on both sides at the end of the day, and I just wanted to make it clear about that, because I know there's going to be some people in the comments, they'll probably say, well, you're coming down on this side, you're coming on that side, down on that side. I'm not. I'm coming down on the side of sensibility here. This is just not on. This is just not on. You don't do this. You don't act like this. This is just mindless hooliganism. Something that, thankfully, in my country, in England, we stamped out a long time ago. You don't really see stuff like this anymore, thankfully. But there's a real problem with it in the Netherlands. And clearly, there is a problem with that in Israel as well. If they're coming over to the Netherlands and they're doing that, so it's not on. It's not on. And bunch of people have been arrested, bunch of people injured, bunch of people in hospital. I don't believe anybody has died, thankfully, which is one small crumb of comfort. But it's pretty horrible, really. A very sad day for European football. Football, the beautiful game, the thing that should bring us together. And unfortunately, some people use it to divide us as much as possible. But there we go. But yeah, for less content, hopefully like this, do keep it subscribed to the Football Chronicle. We normally cover much more light-hearted stuff, but when the important stuff happens, when the sad stuff, the tragic stuff happens, I also cover it as well, because I think it's important to bring the news to you guys at the end of the day. I am not a political news guy. I'll just get that out in the open now. I've done my best. I've done my research. I have verified as much as I can, and I have just got my thoughts out there. So that's just what this video is. So yeah, there we go, guys. But yeah, we will see you soon, guys. Have as good of a weekend as you can after hearing that. Take care.